All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of This About That with me and my buddy Tyler. Tyler, how are we doing today?
Doing well. We got the NFL draft
Yep.
last couple of days. When we're at time of recording this, we're in like the middle of round 4, so everything's going good. It's a good couple of days to be a Raider fan.
Yeah. You guys got some good picks in there, and I think the Niners do as well. But before we kind of get into the draft a little bit, I kind of want to shake things up a little bit. We kind of have we're going to be going over our top 5 offense and defensive players of all time and kind of talking about that a little bit. Tyler, do you want to kick us off with like your top 10 offensive players of all time?
We're going to go top 5. And,
top 5.
So I'll go with my 5th best, and then you'll go with your 5th best. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So at my number 5 spot for best offensive players of all time, I have Randy Moss. Obviously, one of the greatest. I think he's probably the second greatest receiver of all time. Almost invented the deep ball threat, right? So
yeah,
he's incredible. He was an asshole when he was on the Raiders, so
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a prick, but
what was his career high? He had the 3 touchdowns and what, like 100?
Yeah, it was
150 yards or something like that.
Yeah, 3 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and 147 yards.
Yeah, dude, like that's just insane. That's just crazy stat line.
Yeah.
My 5th is also Randy Moss.
Yeah.
I do have Peyton Manning. They flip flop. I have an arrow kind of going down and forth through the 7th, through my top 10 to the 7th. But I have Peyton Manning and Randy Moss kind of bouncing around there. But Randy Moss, like you said, dude, he was a deep threat. He had that dog in him, and dude, he showed up with just so much poise and swag. Like you look at him, and he's not the most built guy. But the man had wheels. He always seemed to find the open space and always seemed to find the fucking end zone.
Wasn't it him? Didn't he have that line? It was like, if I pick up this phone again, I scored again.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember watching a podcast episode with Edelman. He's like, yeah, my rookie year I was there, and Randy Moss, he was giving me a lot of shit. He's like, Edelnut. He kept calling me Edelnut and all this stuff. He's like, Edelnut, when I want you to talk to me, I'll let you know. And then he's like, yeah, it was like Christmas time. They had a game or Thanksgiving. And he went up to Randy Moss while he was talking to his mom. He's like, Edelnut, can't you see I'm talking to my mother right now? And it's just like, it's just funny stuff. But it's like Randy Moss eventually gave Edelman the respect. But, it's rookie hazing. So at its finest. Who is your number 4?
My number 4, I got Barry Sanders.
Okay.
I think he, out of just pure athleticism and skill of the game. I mean, I know he doesn't have the records and all that, but I know he has a few. But I think he's the greatest running back of all time. If you could go back, put him in a time machine and get prime Barry Sanders, I'm sure a lot of people would pick him out of any running backs.
Barry Sanders is on my list as well.
Maybe the only person they would pick above him is like O.J. Simpson or something like that. But
well, I kind of have Barry Sanders is on my list, but he's kind of on the lower side. My 4th is Jim Brown.
Okay.
Jim Brown, I think, is one of those guys that not a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
But he's on the top 5 in like every category, every list on the offensive side. His career stats, I'm just looking at it right now. He rushed for 2359. Averaged 122 yards? Yeah, averaged 122 yards and had 106 TDs. The guy was technically a fullback. He was on the bigger side. He was 6'2", 230 pounds. But I remember when I was a kid, dude, I had a Jim Brown football card and I lost it. And I was super devastated because I was like, dude, that was like definitely worth some money. But Jim Brown is one of those guys that I think just really, really, really kind of set the bar high for those for a lot of the running backs coming after him. But yeah, Jim Brown, he was money, dude. He played trying to look at the times he played. He played in the it looks like he played in the late 50s and 60s. So definitely during that early stages
Yeah. He was running those all those plumbers.
yeah, kind of kind of playing in that old school time of the NFL. It was like what, probably 25 years after, like before, 25 years before, they didn't even have helmets and pads. So I think he definitely was the stepping stone for running backs a lot. And he ran the ball hard. And I think that's the reason why he's at my number 4. I think he's definitely earned my respect. And I do remember reading about him and having his cards when I was a kid. So he's definitely kind of brought back some memories. Just looking at those running backs when I was a kid, Jim Brown definitely is a name that comes up. Who is your number 3?
Number 3, I have Joe Montana.
Yep, same here.
Yeah. I think our top 3 are going to be the same.
I think so too. Joe Montana, I think, like I said, my dad, I am a diehard Niners fan.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was like, he was just unbelievable watching him. And the number 2 on my list, Jerry Rice.
Yeah, same here. Same on my list.
An absolute dynamic duo, and I think one of the best duos to ever play football ever. Trying not to be biased here, but my dad's like, if you could go back in time and watch those games live with me, you will literally see greatness just unfold right in front of your eyes. And Joe Montana, he's got my respect. Obviously, I'm a Niners fan. I think he was just absolute money. And going into that number 2 pick, Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to put Randy Moss in front of Jerry Rice.
They're clinically insane.
I think that's just a very, very hard take, and I don't think that is a correct take. I think Jerry Rice he got it out the mud. I read a book when I was a kid of what he did to get to the NFL. He played at Mississippi Valley State. If I'm not mistaken, let me make sure I'm right on this. But Mississippi Valley State was a HBCU, I believe it is now. Don't know if it was there, but he played for them, and they're an FCS school.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Mississippi Valley State, and the Niners got an absolute steal with him, and then he became one of the greatest.
What spot did they draft him at?
God, I think I want to let's see what spot he was a 16th pick.
Wow.
16th pick in the NFL draft, 1985. Like I said, in my opinion, he's the best wide receiver to ever play the game. And the Niners got an absolute steal. A lot of teams did not take him.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he went to Mississippi Valley State. I don't think anybody's ever been drafted from that school. Maybe, once we throw this out, if anybody knows if anybody's been drafted by Mississippi Valley State, please put it in the comments because I don't know.
And what's crazy is that he was, let me make sure I have this right here, 16-year career, made the Pro Bowl more than half, and was also on the All-Pro, first-team All-Pro.
Yep.
11 times.
I mean, just looking at these stats from 1986 to 1996, he was averaging – I mean, it's over 1,000. It's 1,500, 1,000, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, 1,200, 1,200.
Yeah, here's the other thing. He was with Oakland.
Yeah,
right?
He was with Oakland, and he still was putting up great stats. 2001, 2002.
2002. He was 40 years old. He had 1,211 yards. And I think I'm actually wearing the shirt right now from the 2002 AFC Championship. So,
yeah, it's like 2001, 1,100 yards.
2002, at age 41, 869
yards. And then, he kind of fell off, obviously, because he's in his fucking 40s.
Crazy to think of. I don't think I've seen a picture of him in a Seattle jersey.
Yeah, and it's just like, he played one season for Seattle, and then I think he went to the Niners to have his number, hung up and all that stuff and to retire with him. But I mean, like putting up over 1,000 yards in his 40s for 2 seasons in a row with Oakland is just crazy after being with the Niners.
No, absolutely.
And then obviously going into the number 1 pick, Tom Brady.
Yeah, of course. What,
7 rings. Yeah, I have Tom Brady.
Oh, I've got JJ McCarthy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, gunslinger, dude. He's the same as Tom, dude. He's an absolute dog. But Tom Brady,
I have Tom Brady as well.
Being a Niner fan, after a while, it was tough because I was like, I can't put Joe Montana at that number one spot. The rings speak for themselves.
Tom Brady has more rings by himself than any franchise.
Yep.
In the NFL. That's crazy.
Yep. 7 rings. I mean, the man went from the Patriots to Tampa Bay and still got it done.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Still got it done with Tampa Bay. And then, the NFL boys, shout out them. They were talking about how he might be coming out of retirement. He's teasing on Twitter. I think Tom Brady's trying to not necessarily keep his name alive because it's Tom fucking Brady, so he's always going to be relevant. But I think he's trying to spark a flame there on social media, and who knows, the man could still sling it. He's still in good shape, and he's the best. He's the best, probably, in my opinion, probably one of the best NFL players to ever live. Yeah. Tom, top number one, and that's over 2 of my 9
deals in the draft.
Yeah, I mean
100.
Yeah, he was not when he was at Michigan. He didn't start his first. I don't think he started until his junior season. I don't know who the quarterback was before him, but he was kind of the understudy. And he wasn't a highly touted scout. I mean, his 40-yard dash time, I could run faster than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So, but he was a gunslinger. He was sit in the pocket and just absolutely sling it and put it on the dime every single time. And he made a career out of it. And obviously he came out on top and one of the best NFL players to ever live. Number one on my list on the offensive side of the ball. But let's go into
I want to find the box score.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start.
Yeah, we can go into the top defensive players. I'll say my number 5. My number 5 is Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Deion Sanders, I mean, he obviously speaks for himself, dude. He's just an absolute dog. Now the coach for the University of Colorado, trying to turn that program around. First season last year. And I mean, I think he was the best guy in his position ever.
Yeah.
Best defensive back to ever play the game. He was an absolute ball hawk. He talked that shit, and he backed it up every single time.
What was that one line he had about
he'd line up and you could just instantly see him start talking to the wide receivers, and it's just the mental game.
He said to the media that one time.
I know exactly what you're talking about. What did he say? Oh, God.
And how many teams did he play for again?
He played for, I think
he was drafted by Atlanta, correct?
Yeah. He was drafted by
we'll snip this part out a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely snip this. Yep. He got drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. He had a season with the Niners, played with the Dallas Cowboys for 5 seasons, the seasons with the Washington football team, Redskins back in the day, and then the Baltimore Ravens to end his season. So he also played in the MLB.
Yeah.
So you can argue that he's probably the best two-way sports player of all time.
Yeah.
And I remember see a lot of guys.
The quote that he had was somebody asked him, like, why do you dress like this? He says, if you look good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, dude, he's so like quick with like some of the stuff he says, and you don't see guys playing in the NFL and also playing in the MLB. That's just absolute athleticism.
Yeah,
to hit a baseball and then to go play 60 minutes in the NFL as the best DB to ever play is just insane. It's just crazy. But
so I have Deion on my list as well.
Okay.
But at my number 5, I have Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
Who in my opinion is the second, or actually on this list, third best defensive back of all time. And you just talk about coming out of college, he was on that national championship team for Michigan.
Yep.
Dominant player, played both sides of the ball, won the Heisman. First ever primarily defensive player to ever win the Heisman.
Yep.
Then he gets drafted by the Raiders and he balls out, but starts getting into some off the field trouble, starts having some issues, has some attitude problems. So we say, you know what, fine, pack your shit. We're trading you to Green Bay. And Green Bay almost transformed him into a man, right? Like he didn't have much to do there, so it was all football, and he was able to win Defensive Player of the Year there and win a Super Bowl. But then, he is a Raider through and through. I bet you he would never admit it, but if you look at him when he's talking, he's always at Raider games, always talking about the Raiders. He's never really talking about the Packers. He's always still wearing silver and black. So he's a Raider through and through. So after he got done with Green Bay, he came back to the Raiders. He was a little older, but he started playing safety at a high level and started coaching up our younger guys. I mean, I remember 2014, 2015 seasons, we had him, and he was coaching up Khalil Mack when we had Khalil Mack at the time, and he was just like he was the captain on defense. And I remember when Denver had Peyton Manning, and he was like that season he was like, I'm picking off Peyton Manning for the first time in my career this year. Picked him off twice in the same game. It was awesome.
Yeah,
but I digress. Yeah.
Just looking at his stats, 9-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, Hall of Famer, was Super Bowl champ. I mean, I remember watching him for the Raiders, and he's an absolute dog. He's one of those guys that when you look at these top 10 players of all time, and even going past top 10, he's not on a lot of people's lists, which is kind of wild to me. I think he's just one of those guys that to the media and to the people coming out with these lists just kind of got put under the rug. But I mean, he was an absolute baller. I remember Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
I remember watching him. He was an absolute dog. And I think he deserves more credit. And I'm glad you're kind of highlighting him a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, he was I think he almost led the NFL in all time pick sixes. Like he was just, when he got the ball in his hands, it was like a punt return.
Yeah. Yeah. My number 4 is Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis.
Good one. I don't have him on here.
I love Ray Lewis. I mean, in my opinion, I think he's one of the best linebackers to ever play the game. His story, his physicalness, and his just presence on the field put fear into other players' eyes. Watch him mic'd up. Go watch his mic'd up videos. If anybody that's listening here, go watch his mic'd up videos. He's an absolute dog. He literally comes on the field. He's like, this is a grown man game. We're going to be playing 60 minutes. He hits you. He gets up. He's like, yeah, I'm about to do it again. Over and over and over again. Well, I remember, I think it just started from his childhood when he was a kid. I don't think he had a great set of parents growing up.
Yeah.
He had a very abusive father growing up. And I remember him saying that he used to do 52 push-ups. He'd get a deck of cards and throw them down and do push-ups over and over and over again. And that's why he's number 52. Because he wanted to get strong enough to be able to defend his mom. And, and I just think that brings just such character to the game when you grow up in such an abusive household like that. And it's just, he's an absolute dog. I mean, I remember watching him in the Super Bowl against my 49ers when I was a kid. And I mean, he still just was all over the field. I mean, it's just, he's an absolute dog, like I said before. And I think he deserves to be in that top 5. And that's why I have him at 4.
Yeah. He also had that, if you remember, that incredible speech before Madden 13 would start. You load into Madden 13, and Ray Lewis going off. Yeah, that was awesome. But then also, I think he killed somebody, but we'll just move on.
Yeah, I believe so too. Seems like that might be a reoccurring theme with some of these NFL players.
Anyway, so my number 4 defensive player is Aaron Hernandez. So I think that's strike 1.
Strike 1.
No, my number 4, I've got Reggie White.
That's the player. I have him at number 2.
Okay.
Dude. Absolute dog.
Yeah.
Absolute dog. He's one of those players that if you got people into a room, NFL casuals, They wouldn't know who Reggie White is.
No.
I guarantee it. If you brought up Reggie White, nobody knew. He invented the hump move, an absolute great move. You get the tackle offset on his toes.
Demonstrate for me.
I don't know if I can do this, but I'll turn the camera here.
There we go.
Here
we go.
He would literally get off the line, right?
Yeah.
And he'd get these tackles offset on their heels, and he just boom, he goes straight to the shoulder and just club them straight over and straight to the ground, and he would just mollywop the quarterback after. And there is a video of him doing that to one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, Larry Allen, and with ease. I've met Larry Allen before. The guy's an absolute unit, and Reggie White made him look like a pillow. Reggie White had 198 sacks total, and he was a big dude, and he could move the hump move.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he was one of the greatest defensive players of all time. He deserves to be on that top 5 list. He's at number 2, so we'll skip my number 2.
We'll jump up to number 3. Yeah, go ahead.
Number 3, I have Aaron Donald.
Really?
Aaron Donald, he's not on a lot of these guys' lists because he just ended up retiring. But Aaron Donald, in my opinion, was just everything you wanted in a player. I remember when I was a kid, I would watch his highlights from Pittsburgh. I was really into the small time, smaller players. He wasn't a huge guy coming out of Pittsburgh. I think he ended up weighing like 280 pounds at like 6'2", 6'1", or something like that. So kind of undersized, but just hearing his story, they came out with a documentary of him just saying, "Oh, his dad would be like, yeah, we'd be in the garage just, working out, getting after it," knowing that Aaron Donald wasn't the biggest player. He wasn't the most highly recruited player. Pittsburgh is obviously a Division I FBS school, but Pittsburgh, they've had a few draft picks the last few seasons, but Aaron Donald just blew everybody out of the water. I mean, he could play anywhere on the defensive line. You can put him at edge. You can put him at the 2, the 3 technique. His hands, his feet, everything. He just dominated every single snap. He dominated. I remember Super Bowl. What was it? A few years back, he had him mic'd up. He's like, you got this. You're built for this. Yes. Yeah. You got this. You're built for this.
2021? I
believe so.
2 years
He's just mic'd up, walking back and forth. You got this. So you're built for this. You're made for this. And he called game.
Mm-hmm.
He called game. He got lined up, and he made the play. He made the play to win the Super Bowl, and it just kind of solidifies his career. You see him in the offseason training with literal butcher knives. Like, that's just insane. Like, guys throwing knives at him, swiping his hands away. It just teaches you to be quick off the ball, knowing that he's not the biggest guy. I mean, he's going against offensive linemen that outweigh him by 25, 30 pounds.
He was just insanely strong. There's that one picture of him just getting blocked by 3 guys at the same time. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And he was almost getting through.
Yeah, I remember when he played the Niners, we triple team him, double team him, do whatever we can to stop him, and it still wouldn't be enough. 111 sacks over his career. I believe he played 10 years. I think it was 10 years. And just, made a name for himself, and in my opinion, is going to go obviously down as one of the best defensive players to ever play the game. He changed the game for a lot of people, and I think he motivated a lot of people. He motivated a lot of those smaller guys, a lot of those guys that didn't get highly recruited, and obviously brought a name to himself and just made him and his family proud, and the NFL proud. The Rams were lucky to have him, and he's one of my my top players on this list.
So we'll go up to my 3 and 2 because we already kind of covered my number 2. My number 3, I got Ronnie Lott.
Yes,
another one of those combo Raiders and Niners players.
Ronnie
Probably-
Lott is on my list as well. It was
Greatest
kind of,
safety of all time for sure, I think.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I also agree. He's my number one safety on my list.
Mhm.
I don't have him in my top 5. I definitely could think that I could bounce him around with him and maybe Ray Lewis and Deion Sanders in that top 5. But Ronnie Lott, dude, I mean, I remember my dad always talking about him. Just flew around, around and lit you up. If you knew Ronnie Lott was on the field, you're seeing those wide receivers shaking.
So I'll tell you. Let me look this up so I know I'm right.
Being a Niner fan, you hear about Ronnie Lott all the time, and in my opinion, I do agree that he is the best safety of all time. Just put the fear of God in guys, and he wasn't the biggest dude either. Just flew around and absolutely just. If you guys go watch his highlights, he was an absolute dog. He during halftime, I don't know if you're looking this part up, but during halftime of a game, he had his finger amputated and came back and finished the game. His finger got caught in somebody's helmet and it just snapped off. Got it amputated, put a few shots in there of whatever they had back in the day, and he got back out there. Name another player that did that. Name another player that had a part of his body amputated and he came back in to finish the game at a high level. The guy was an absolute dog. Absolute dog.
That's the stuff right there. Like that's how your Pee Wee coaches used to act like you should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, what are you crying for? Chop that thing off and get in there.
Yeah, it's just third grade.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's just old school football, dude. Wrap it up and get back in there. And Ronnie Lott was the definition of old school. Put you in the dirt. You're gonna feel me 60 minutes of this game, every single game. And I love watching his highlights. I love watching my dad, who's been a diehard Niner fan his whole life, talk about him. He just gets fired up. Shout out Kurt. It's just unbelievable what that man did.
They were on the Raiders at different times, so I was wrong. But I was thinking, for some reason, I thought he played with another player who you would absolutely be terrified if you're a receiver over the middle of the field. If Jack Tatum.
Jack Tatum
paralyzed somebody forever.
Did he play for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he played for Oakland.
Okay, wait, no, I'm thinking of another player. Sorry.
And then he played for Houston.
Jack Tatum. Who's the guy that I was?
You're thinking of Rod Woodson?
He played for the Steelers.
Did Jack? I don't think Jack Tatum.
What was his name? I gotta find this. Jack Lambert. Sorry, Lambert from the Steelers. Just toothless guy. Probably about 210, 215. Played linebacker back in the day. And was just.
They used to call Jack Tatum the assassin.
Yeah, Jack Tatum. Yeah, I was getting him and Jack Lambert mixed up. Yeah. But yeah, Jack Tatum, another great football player. Just going back real quick to Ronnie Lott, just an absolute dog. Dog. Nothing else to say. Just, in my opinion, the best safety to play ever. And he brought that physical play. And he did it over and over and over again, 60 minutes.
Yeah. And my number 2 was Deion Sanders. We already talked about him, but I think we probably have the same number 1 again.
Yeah. Lawrence Taylor.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. Lawrence Taylor. I mean, the name speaks for itself.
Talk about a player you could put anywhere on the field.
Yeah. I mean, the guy played outside linebacker, middle linebacker, came off the edge, blitzed up the middle. He did it all. You watch him, and that is the definition of putting the fear of Jesus Christ into every player he played against. If you were a quarterback, you were shitting your britches before the game. Go look up a picture of Lawrence Taylor and tell me you want to go up to that guy and say anything negative to him.
I already know I don't. Hey, real quick, I just want to run you through. The Niners made 2 more picks at the end of round 4 here. And I think this transitions us kind of well. You guys got Jacob Coing from Arizona, wide receiver. You got Isaac Guerendo from Louisville.
Ooh.
And then you already know about Malik Mustafa. But
yeah, we'll cover him. I think the I think the Niners are doing pretty well in this draft. I think a lot of people are not happy with some of those, but I am happy with it. I'm not disappointed.
Yeah.
But just going back real quick to Lawrence Taylor. I mean, the name speaks for himself, dude. The guy, go watch his highlights of him coming off the edge. He absolutely destroyed people. Destroyed people. And if he's not number one on your list, to anybody listening, if anybody has to argue that number one spot, they just don't know ball.
No,
they just don't know ball. And I'm not saying I'm an NFL analyst, but Lawrence Taylor put the fear of God into players. He was deeper
than that though. Like it was like you weren't even just scared of him. You're like, you went out there and you knew, like, okay, like I don't care if everybody else makes a billion plays this game. We have to limit.
Have to stop him. You have to stop him, and you couldn't. Couldn't stop.
There's nothing you can do. He was Thanos. He was inevitable.
Yeah, inevitable. So kind of shifting here, still in the NFL, we're going to go over a little bit of a draft picks for the Niners and the Raiders. Tyler, I don't know if you want to go first and kind of go over maybe Brock Powers and Jackson Powers.
Johnson,
Jack Powers, what is his last name? Is
Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson. An absolute dog name, by the way.
Yeah.
But Brock Bowers.
Yeah. So knee-jerk reaction from me a little bit when we drafted Brock Bowers. I was not thrilled just because I know how good of a player Brock Bowers is. We just drafted Michael Mayer last year in round 2. We didn't necessarily need another tight end, but then as I was, I started doing a little bit more research, and he's more of a wide receiver tight end combo, right? And those two tight end sets, if you have a 2 tight end set and you put out there him, Mayer, Devontae, Jacoby Myers, or Trey Tucker, who's going to guard all those guys?
Yeah. I watched him at Georgia almost every weekend. And, dude, when I tell you you guys got an absolute dog, I mean it.
Yeah.
He was great. Brock Bowers, you watch him 60 minutes, that man was all over the field. Like you said, more of a wide receiver tight end. He's not a 250, 260 guy. He's, I think, right about 230, 6'4", 6'5", and just a guy you want on your team.
Yeah.
California native from Napa Valley. He's from Napa Valley. I don't think there's been any player in the NFL that has ever been drafted that is from Napa Valley or anywhere near there. He was so exciting to watch in college.
Yeah.
The guy was all over the field, one-handed catches in the end zone, Tony two-tap. You could throw that ball anywhere in his direction, and he was coming down with it.
Yeah.
I think you guys got an absolute steal with him. Like I said, he's a good locker room guy.
Well, especially after the catch, too.
Yeah.
The only thing about him, though, that I'm not loving, when the pick got announced, he didn't look very excited, so that was a little.
I think he's just a very emotionless guy. Like, I think he's
one robotic. Of those dudes. It seems like that, too, when I've seen him talk to the coaches and stuff. He's just a little.
He is a little robotic, not really trained with the media very well.
Yeah.
But being from small town Napa Valley, just kind of a workhorse, dude. They came out with an ESPN documentary of him and his parents saying he was always outside running hills, working out every single day, trying to be the best player he can be.
Yeah.
And the guy is just so good. So good. Just like I said, you could throw the ball anywhere and he's going to come down with it. And I think he's going to be a great player for you guys.
Yeah.
Kind of going into another pick.
Let's go with your round 1 pick here.
Yeah. Ricky Parcell.
Yeah.
I mentioned him as one of my sleeper picks in our last episode.
Yeah. So if you guys watched our last episode,
and
you kind of had an idea already when he got drafted. So
yep. The NFL boys shocked me a little bit with their reaction, and I understand us Niners fans being a little upset and knowing that it's not technically what we needed was another wide receiver. But it's not like this kid played in the FCS. He wasn't playing for Alcorn State. He played in the SEC for Florida, the University of Florida, and was a highly touted wide receiver for them and one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. And he's an athlete. He's one of the most athletic guys in the draft.
Sneaky athletic.
You have kind of the talk about Brandon Ayuk and what's going to happen with him. I watched a little bit of the live draft, and my dad's like, oh, they're going to franchise tag him after this year. He's still signed to 1 year. This Ricky Parcell guy, he's going to get on the minimum rookie contract. He's an athlete. In our offense, you can see how they work Debo into those running back plays out of the backfield, handing it off to him and having those wide receivers block for him. You can do that with Ricky too. He did that at Florida where they just handed it off and let him go. He is fast. His route running is crisp. He can be a deep threat. Go watch the play he made, the one-handed catch against Charlotte, and absolutely getting lit up 50 yards down the field and still coming down with the ball.
Yeah, I remember watching those the clips last week when we were talking about it.
Yeah, he's a dog. I think he's going to fit well. I think he fits well with our offense. Yes, it's not what technically we need, but it adds depth and it adds athleticism to our not complicated offense, but our not traditional offense of having Debo, who's a big guy, but you're adding speed with Ricky. You can do the same plays you're doing with Debo. Yeah, you have Debo out wide and all these other bigger.
What this does is makes Debo
more of a wide receiver.
I think you guys can get rid of Debo.
Yeah, there has been talks
of
him.
If you get rid of that contract, you just got to find. You almost got to give him away, unfortunately. But
it's going to be hard.
Ricky is going to be better because Debo has kind of started being like, I'm not playing running back anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't like it, and I understand the fact that he wants to be that wide receiver guy. He wants to play that primary position, but dude, you're too damn big to not be handing off the ball or tossing it to you out, running out of the flats and making a play. It's just you work well with what the offense is giving you, and I think Ricky just, like I said, he adds speed, he adds athleticism, and I think we could do a lot of stuff. He's versatile, dude, and I really like this pick. Kind of switching back to the Raiders here. Mm-hmm. Offensive lineman Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah.
University of Oregon. Tyler, what
I love this pick. Jackson Powers Johnson screams Raider. He grew up, his parents were Raiders fans. He wants to be a Raider. I don't know if you saw his reaction to getting picked, but he was just so juiced. The emotion all over him. He posts a video. I think you saw it on my story. He's like, the autumn wind is a pirate.
Yeah.
Fucking way. This is awesome. So, I'm a big fan of his. Just a mean, strong. Yes. He's young.
Yes.
So he's not that. I think he's 20. I think he might be 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's going to be in the league for a long time. Strong, nasty streak, right? Talks it, walks it. He's all about it. Yeah. He's a tough son of a bitch. So I'm really happy with that pick.
Dude, I'm also happy with that pick. I love seeing the offensive lineman getting love. 6'3", 320 pounds, guard center. The guy is an absolute dog. He reminds me, we were talking about, he reminds me of a little bit of Quentin Nelson mixed with Richie Incognito. Now, Richie Incognito, he had his times of where you're like, okay, buddy, you gotta pump the brakes a little bit.
Throwing weight to his teammates.
or making racial comments to God, who's the guy on the Miami Dolphins? What's his fucking name? He was just a nasty player, but that's what he reminds me of, a mixture of Quentin Nelson and Richie Incognito. With Richie, you got the shit talking, you got the physicality, and Quentin Nelson, you just got that dog and just flat backing people. And I think Jackson Powers is going to be an absolute dog, and I think that's what the Raiders need. You gotta. It all starts up front. In my opinion, it all starts up front. You get a good offensive line. It gives your quarterback time, and I think Jackson Powers is going to be good.
Yeah, I think that this is the total home run pick for Antonio Pierce, who's trying to bring that fierceness and ferocity back into the Raiders organization, right? Where we used to have some nasty players, right?
You
think about Lyle Alzado, like you were saying.
That's the name that always rings bells with
Steve
me. Lyle Alzado.
Jim Otto, like these guys who were
Jim
just
Otto.
like, well, we're gonna knock you on your ass, and you're gonna get up and thank us for it. Like, that's the kind of players we're trying to get in here, and I think that I think he fits that mold perfectly.
Yeah, it's just like you got to have a certain attitude, I think, to play for the Raiders, and that's what I think Antonio Pierce, like you said, is trying to bring. He's trying to bring that tenacity, that old school Raiders play, which was Lyle Alzado. You go watch his highlights. He was grabbing motherfuckers' helmets off and swinging them right back at him with those big old massive pads on his forearms, just absolutely an ass kicker. And it's just that's what the Raiders want. And I just
it's always been like that. It's like the Raiders' identity is we want to be the team that you hate to play against. Like,
exactly.
Like it's not going to be fun. You're going to be sore after. You're going to be hurting.
You don't want to play the Raiders for 60 minutes. That's the attitude that I think Antonio Pierce likes, and I like him as a head coach. By the way, I really, really do.
Yeah, me too.
And like I said, he brings NFL experience. The man's a Super Bowl champ with the New York Giants. He was a great linebacker for them.
And he's gone out and he's hired a good staff. He's surrounded himself with former head coaches and people who have been there before him. And he's, he knows, like, there's a video recently he put out. It's like it was not a mandatory. It was a voluntary like meeting with the team. Everybody showed up. He goes like, I appreciate you guys all showing up. But this is where we get better. Like you guys, you show up here, we get better. He's like, why do you guys think I hired this guy and this guy? Former NFL head coaches, a lot smarter than me. He's like, because I need to get better. So it's like everybody in the building is just constantly trying to build and build and build. It's just a good feeling. I didn't get this feeling with Josh McDaniels at all. So awesome.
Josh McDaniels,
he's an idiot. Yeah,
good coordinator in my opinion. He did well with the Patriots, but he's not a head coach. So, but kind of going back to the Niners, we just drafted a kid named Malik Mustafa, defensive back, safety.
Yep,
absolute sleeper pick. I wish I had a little bit more players to mention in our last episode. The reason why this name rings bells is because I remember I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw his highlight reels for Wake Forest. He played for Wake Forest, ACC football. Like you said, not a lot of guys are coming out of Wake Forest. He kind of got put under the radar. I think the Niners got an absolute steal. The Niners in the past, DBs and safeties seem to always be injury prone. Somebody's always going out. I think this adds depth, and he is a physical DB, and I love that. I love DBs and safeties that come up and want to hit you. You go watch his highlights. The guy's flying. My brother just said he watched his highlights. Hard hitter, hard tackler, coming up and making plays. That's what I want in DB. He wasn't afraid of contact. And an absolute dog. 67 tackles, 36 solo, and he had 5 tackles for loss in his last season with Wake Forest. Just kind of looking at my notes here. He had a season high 13 tackles and 9 solo against the University of Syracuse. And that's insane. Having 13 tackles and 9 solo as a defensive back and a safety in one game, I think the Niners got an absolute steal with that pick, and I'm really excited to see what he does. But yeah, kind of still kind of with the NFL a little bit. It's kind of our topic here. I want to talk a little bit about just the quarterbacks a little bit. Just kind of close out this episode. Drake May and Caleb Williams is kind of on my radar for quarterbacks, just with the talk of the draft. What do you think about Caleb Williams?
I do not like Caleb Williams. I think I want to go. Have you ever seen Caleb Williams in a college playoff football game?
Nope.
Neither have I. That's interesting, isn't it? That this guy can be this generational talent, do all these things, but he can't get his team to the playoff.
That's and USC football right there.
People are going to say
always been like that.
People are going to say, oh, well, the defense wasn't there. This wasn't there. That wasn't there. A lot of teams haven't had, look at TCU a year ago. Max Duggan was taking his team to a
natty.
Exactly.
And got absolutely lit up against Georgia. That's fine. But
you're not even
Max Duggan, who's not even in the NFL, I don't think anymore.
Yeah. And he's, and I don't even care about like the shit that other people caring about. Like, oh, he paints his nails. Like, oh, he does this. He does that. I don't give a shit. Like, when I look at him, I see Zach Wilson. I see these guys who are oh man, these guys are there. These guys are next up. This is that. Your brother is out there saying that the Bears became playoff contenders because of Caleb Williams. And granted, they did grab Rome Odunze too, so they're gonna be fine. But I mean, I just don't think that. I don't think that Caleb Williams is that good. Plus, he's going to the Bad News Bears, where they're just a quarterback recycling plant. So
yeah, Caleb Williams, man, I'm an Oklahoma fan. Sooners right here. It seems like every quarterback that goes to Oklahoma eventually transfers. Caleb Williams goes to USC with Riley, and it's USC football every season. They're overhyped every single season, and they can't get it done. You're a team in Southern California with probably the best football, some of the best high school football in the country. Yeah. You get 5 stars year in, year out on both sides of the ball, and you still can't get it done. You play against the other teams in the Pac-12, which the Pac-12 is really no longer, and your team is giving up 40 points. What was it against fucking Arizona State? Like how do you give up 28 points against Arizona State last season? Like how 42, and it was a dogfight until the 4th. Like how do you give up 41 points to Colorado? How do you give up 41? Oh, well, Arizona was pretty good, but how are you giving up all these points? You gave up 49 points to Cal. To Cal. Shout out Diego, the California Bears. How are you giving up 49 points? But you guys want to be playoff contenders, and you want Caleb Williams. Yeah, he had the stats. He had the highly touted, news and NFL analysts all over him. And I don't know. You go to the Bears. It's like you just gave away Justin Fields, and you're throwing Caleb Williams right in the fire. Do they have any offensive linemen to protect him? Because that's the problem I saw last season with Fields. They didn't give him any time. And now you're throwing Caleb Williams in there, and it's like, what is he going to do different? Is he going to light up the scoreboard? Is he going to make plays? Because what I saw out of Fields last year.
Interesting.
Did they not?
They did not have a second-round pick. They took Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. Let's go to the 3rd. Their next pick was an offensive tackle from Yale.
Okay.
I'm not even going to pretend to know how to say his name.
Yale is a little interesting to me. But
75th pick, they took the 114th ranked player. We reached 2, so I'm not going to hold that against them too bad. See, but then they don't have another pick until round 4. And they take a punter.
Yeah, I don't know what the Bears are doing, man. Like it's just like you throw this kid in there. He's gonna start immediately. Let's be honest. And it's just like, is it gonna be another Fields thing? Is it gonna be another Fields where this kid's just taking a beating all season long, and then the Bears fans 50-50, some of them are blaming Fields, and then they're blaming the offensive line and
Bears fans, I felt like love Fields.
Yeah, and most of the comments that I read were like, it's not Fields' fault. A lot of guys were like, you already had a quarterback. Why are you drafting Caleb Williams? And I think the Bears are just trying so hard to make something happen, and it's just like you put all your eggs in one basket with Caleb Williams.
And I mean, their receiving core is crazy. They have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze. Like it's going to be hard for Caleb Williams to fail. He's going to have to just be bad, and I don't think he's just playing bad. I think the Bears are going to bear, and the Bears never have good quarterbacks. So I think that's the curse. Yeah,
and I don't know. We'll see how the Bears turn out this season. The one other player that I want to talk about before we close this out is Drake May, University of North Carolina quarterback. I watched him last season quite a bit. The man is good. I think a lot of people don't like him. I think a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to be another Mac Jones. I don't know. He's going to New England. In my opinion, I was talking to Anthony the other day about him.
Damn.
I don't know if he's going to be another Mac Jones, but I remember watching him. He made plays with his feet. He's more athletic than Mac Jones, and he had an absolute arm. The guy can throw anywhere on the field. I think he fits well with that, like the per se pocket passing quarterbacks that New England normally has.
Yeah.
I think Drake May is a good fit for them, but it's like, are the Patriots going to get guys that he can throw to? Are they going to get players that can make plays for him? Because it could be another Mac Jones situation where you put this kid in, Mac Jones, who was highly recruited from to Alabama into the NFL and just lost his confidence.
Yeah, but you look at Mac Jones. Where even is Mac Jones now?
Oh, God, dude. Who's he playing for?
Is he even employed?
Mac Jones is playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, so he's back up to Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
So I don't know. I want to like Drake May.
I do too.
He reminds me of, take this with a grain of salt, he reminds me of Zach Wilson before he got drafted, where I thought Zach Wilson was going to be the best quarterback out of that draft.
I mean, I watched Zach Wilson live at Boise State. I watched him live. The guy was good.
That's where it comes in, though, is that as good as I think these guys are, sure, they're tearing it up, but they're not playing big schools.
Yeah.
I mean, who do
UNC, they let me look up UNC's schedule. 2023. So let's see this. Their first game was against South Carolina, and they killed them 31-17. So ACC versus SEC, they killed them. They played App State the next week. App State's one of those teams that for some reason the last few seasons has been kind of on that upset train. They only beat App State 40-34. They played Minnesota 31-13, beat Pittsburgh, beat Syracuse, Miami. You have dog shit Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Minnesota. I mean, it's just not a lot of good teams here.
Exactly. And that's my fear, right? Is that like, sure, like Zach Wilson, for example, was beaten up on Boise State and shit like that. But like, would he have ever beat Alabama? Would he have ever beat Georgia? Probably not.
No.
Would Drake May ever beat Alabama or Georgia? I'd like to know how many interceptions he would throw. And again, I like Drake May. I want him to do well, but it's just one of those things where it's like, will this guy be any good? It's the same thing as like when you get a Stetson Bennett or Mac Jones, like these quarterbacks who are on these national championship teams. Everybody thinks like, well, they won a national championship. They must be good. And I know what you guys are going to say when you watch this. Oh, you say the same thing about J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is the greatest quarterback talent we've seen in the last 50 years, probably. So I don't want to hear it. All right. But yeah, no, I just, I see him as a good talent, just like I saw Zach Wilson. But I just worry about it could turn into one of those situations where it's just he would look good in college because he wasn't playing anybody.
Yeah, and looking at the last 4 games of the season for UNC, they played Duke, beat them 47-45. Duke was another team that was decent in the ACC. They lost to Clemson the next week. Clemson was kind of an up and down team last year. They lost. UNC lost 31-20. They played NC State the next week, lost 39-20. So the last 2 games, they're playing the best teams in the ACC, the Clemson and the NC State. They never played Florida State, which I think it would have been the same results as Clemson and NC State, because I don't think UNC's defense was very good. You see a lot of these scores. Yeah. I mean, they gave up 46. They lost to Georgia Tech, 46-42. They gave up 31 points against Miami. They gave up 31 points against Virginia and lost to Virginia. So I can't blame everything on Drake May because UNC's defense wasn't very good. But when you're looking at these scores, it's kind of hard. And then they played in the Duke's Mayo Bowl against West Virginia. Somehow West Virginia got into that bowl, and West Virginia killed UNC.
I love these bowl game names.
Yeah, Duke's Mayo, like, jeez. It's just like 30-10. I don't even know how many guys were drafted or went to the draft or opted out to play, not play in that bowl. But like I said, I was talking to Anthony to kind of, just final thoughts here. I think it's going to come down to who they have at wide receiver, who's going to be the playmakers for New England, right. And we'll see if Drake May can come out on top. But yeah, I think that's about all we have today. A lot of NFL news in this about that.
Yeah, next week we're going to go back to mixing it up a little bit, get some NBA talk in there. By that time, the Lakers should have been eliminated from the playoffs, so I'll be smiling ear to ear.
0-3 LeBron right now.
Yeah.
So we'll talk NBA, NHL.
We'll get into a little bit of bowling next week.
A little bit of bowling, dude. For all you bowling fans out there, you sickos. We're going to touch up on some things that you guys probably are not going to necessarily have on your radar. So look out for our next episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and go follow us at Settle Down Media. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff. Spotify, go follow us, subscribe, like, all that stuff. We have the NFL shows, the NCAA, hockey, all that good stuff where they go into more depth.
Yeah, just go to the Settle Down YouTube page. It's all on there. So
go check it out. Go check it out. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.